struggling with your conversion numbers? Want a marketing strategy that is finally going to work for you and your business? Welcome back to this episode of the podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Weitkamp, a conversion copywriter, marketing strategist, and your guide to all things marketing and scaling and growing your business. And I'm so excited today to talk to you about conversion. Now, this is a part of the breakdown of the 5C marketing framework for online business success. And today we are talking about conversion. Now, before I go any further, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So when I talk about conversion, what do I mean? What is my real definition of conversion? Oftentimes when I talk with people and I speak with coaches who are struggling, who are like, you know what, nothing's ever working, they don't have the same definition of conversion that I do. So when I want to talk about conversion, I want to talk about what that really means. The reality is the final conversion is what most of us focus on, right? Do we make a sale? But the reality is conversion happens at every single step of the way when it comes to getting your right audience into your world. Right. So we've talked a lot about audience, about clarity, about knowing who we're talking to and where we want them to go next. And that is actually where our powerful conversion numbers come into play. Right. We want to know, where are people coming from? Where are they going next? And are they actually moving along the path? So before we've talked about, right, the importance of connecting with the right people at the right time with the right messaging, and then knowing where you want to send them. That is the conversion point, right? So conversion is literally every single step of the way on your client's journey to becoming a paying client. Now, here's what that might look like. You share out your lead magnet that we've kind of talked about a little bit in the connect step. We've talked about this on several other episodes of the podcast about what that lead magnet is and how to create it. So step number one is you share that lead magnet out, right? You share information about it. You share the benefit of it. And somebody clicks to the page, right? Clicks from your social media posts, from your email, from hearing you on a summit. They click to go explore if they want that lead magnet. That's your first conversion point. Now, this one's a little bit harder to judge. This one's a little bit harder to track because we don't necessarily know how many people have seen our social posts or how many people have seen a summit talk or how many people saw it live or how many people saw it on replay. All of those are questions that we might have. So that's a harder conversion point to talk about. But once they're in our world, we can start looking at real numbers. So the next conversion point is they get on the page where they can grab that goodie, where they can grab that checklist, that guide, that mini course, those free video series, whatever it looks like for how you are inviting people to join your email list and learn more about who you are and how you serve people. So the next conversion point is on your landing page, right? That's the page where most people are directed to so they can go and grab that goodie, called a landing page. So how many people are visiting that page and how many people are then taking the step, taking the action to sign up and say yes? And then you have several other conversion points. We've talked about this in our previous episode in this series on cultivation, right? The importance of cultivating, of guiding your people from stranger to knowing more about you to being ready to say yes. So every time you send out an email and they take that step to click, to go to a page, to go to a podcast, to listen to something, to read something, to interact with you and your brand, that's another conversion point, right? That's what another conversion point looks like. At the end is the sale. Now let's take this a little bit more in depth, especially for those of you who are doing launches, right? I was speaking with a client the other day and they're like, yeah, I want to improve my numbers on my launch. Here's the numbers that I've got. Here's how I'm doing. And, it's just not working really well. I want it to work better. But the reality was her numbers were fantastic because most of us have a skewed sense of what actually a real conversion number looks like. So let's say you're going to do a huge, huge launch, right? You're going to get tons of people to mail for you. You're going to tell about your services. You're going to have a masterclass. You're going to invite a lot of strangers and people from your own list to go ahead and learn more about you and attend this training or a masterclass that you're going to give great information on. Of the people who opt in, of the people who sign up for that very first step, whether they're a stranger or not, a great conversion at the end, meaning of the people who said, yes, I want to attend this very first step in your funnel, all the way to the end is saying yes to buying, 1 to 3% overall is fantastic. Now you might be thinking, well, what does that really look like? What that looks like is if you get 100 people to sign up to a masterclass, whether or not they attend, whether or not they, watch a replay, whether or not they do anything else, 1 to 3 of them will say yes to buying your product if you've got a really high converting funnel. Now, those numbers may not seem inspiring, but that's because there's so many conversion points along the way. First, you have to get them to say yes to attending the masterclass at all. Then you have to get them to actually attend live. When you have people attend live, they're much more likely to say yes. So a good number is 30% of the people who signed up actually show up live. That's it. So now you're not working with 100 people, you're working with 30 people. And a good conversion on a webinar is 1 to 3%. So of those 30, maybe 1 or 2 say yes. And there's your 1 to 3% conversion rate. And then, of course, you can have follow-ups. You have emails that go out afterwards. You have emails announcing your program. You have all kinds of different things that you could be doing. But the real definition of conversion is inviting someone to take action, and they take that action. So your numbers are lying to you in that most people only focus on one point of conversion. I have a webinar that converts at 10%. That's great. That's fantastic. That's an amazing conversion. However, 10% is not 10% of people who heard about the webinar. It's not 10% of people who signed up for the webinar. It's 10% of people who actually attended live. So there's so many different spaces between hearing about something and then actually taking that buying step. So when we talk conversion, right, that's part of the process. And one thing most people overlook is even having a CTA. So what's a CTA? A CTA is an acronym. It stands for call to action. And basically what it is it's you telling somebody else what the next step is. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't want to have to tell people what to do. But the reality is many of us, we don't know what that next step looks like. We don't know how you can help us. I don't know how you can help me. I don't know what you offer. I don't know how to access that resource you mentioned unless you tell me where to do it, right? So let's say you send in an email, you tell a short story about a client who had an amazing result, and they say, you know what, if you want to hear more about this process, what? Do they go to your website? Do they read a product services page? Do they go check out a case study? Do they go watch a video testimonial? What is that next step? So that's why you want to use a CTA, where you say, hey, if you want to learn more about this process, I break it down in this podcast episode, go listen here. And go listen here is a clickable link for people to go and listen to your brilliance, your wisdom, and all you have to share about this particular process, right? So a CTA should be in every piece of your marketing. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I do that? I can't come up with 50,000 different things for people to do, and you don't have to. Remember, the goal is to get people closer to you, closer to your world, guide them along the path until they're ready to work with you, until they're ready and looking for how to say yes. So a CTA is simply you inviting them to take the next step. Every blog post you have, invite them to sign up for your newsletter. Every lead magnet you have, invite them for a call or to join a community at the end of it. Every email you send, invite them to take action. Conversion is simply the process of your ideal clients taking the next step. And that's the key to building out a marketing strategy that works, to know what the next step looks like at every stage of the process. Now, you might have heard a number. It takes 5 to 12 touch points for someone to say yes. And that number is actually getting higher. Now it's like 15 to 30, 12 to 18, depending on if people have a face-to-face or an actual phone call with you. So it takes a lot of touch points for someone to be able to say, yes, I'm ready to work with you. Now, for some of us, that might seem really overwhelming. However, if you are using an email newsletter and you're contacting your people once a week or sending them resources twice a week, well, you reach that 12 touch points pretty quick, right? 6 weeks, you've got your 12 touch points. But the key is to have a call to action in each of those. You have to get your audience used to taking a next step to move along the path. If you don't tell them where to go, they're going to get lost. They're going to fall off. and they're never going to reach the end. That's why so many of us like to have a GPS, right? We pull up Google Maps. Those of us who are old school have an actual GPS machine in our cars. We use Waze. We use something to get to where we're wanting to go. And if we're wanting to avoid pitfalls, if we're wanting to avoid obstacles, we use an app that tells us where all the traffic is and which route is best, right? Which way is the best way for me to get to my destination? Because even if you're only going 20 minutes away, there's probably 2 to 3 different ways for you to reach that location. But what's the best route? You have to be the guide to tell them. You have to show them what that next step is, right? Now, one other thing I want to dive into when we talk about conversion is how to get your real numbers. How to get your real numbers. Now, as I mentioned, it's a little hard to track conversion from social media to wherever you are, or from podcasting to wherever you are, unless you go into the techie stuff and get a really highly trackable link so you know where every single piece of traffic is coming from. But then you still may not know what the overall number is, right? How many people actually heard it versus how many people took that action, right? But I want to talk about metrics when it comes to email. I was talking with my client the other day, the one who thought that she thought that her funnel wasn't converting well, but really it was converting great. She was getting, 20 to 30% open rates. She was getting 20 to 30% show up rates for her trainings, and her click-through rates were that 1 to 3%, right? Those are all great numbers. She was a little confused because she was showing her click rate was like 0.5%. She's like, that's horrible. It's horrible. But I want you to think about this for just a moment. Your real conversion number is not overall versus action takers. It's how many people saw versus how many people did. And here's what I mean by that. If you send an email to 1,000 people and you get a 30% open rate, that's fantastic. 30%. I know so many of my clients who would love to have those types of numbers. I usually get around those types of numbers myself, and that's what I help my clients do, to get 30% open rate. Now, what does that mean? 1,000 people received the email. It landed in their inbox, but only 300 people saw it. So when you see a click of, it was a 0.5% click-through rate, it's 0.5% of that 1,000 people. But 1,000 people didn't open the message. 1,000 people didn't even see the invitation to take the next step. Only 300 did. So an easy way for you to kind of raise your own metrics and realize how incredibly powerful your emails are is to take the total number of clicks and divide that by the total number of opens. Now you might be thinking, well, my software only tells me what the percentage is. And that's not true. Usually your software, you can go one step further into your metrics and it'll give you whole numbers, like it was 5 clicks or it was 212 people open. You can see my open rate was 27%. If you click on that, at least in ConvertKit, which is my preferred method of email marketing, if you click on that, then it'll show you, okay, so here's all of the email addresses that opened it, and it'll give you a number like 121 out of 300. Oh, okay. So 121 people opened that. And then you look at your clicks and realize, well, is it that 1 to 3%? Is it the 1 to 3% who are ready to take action at any one point in your business, at any one point in your audience? About 3% of people are ready to take action. They are ready to buy. They're like, yep, just give me a button. I'm ready to do it. Right? I want to do it. I'm ready. So what that means is a 1 to 3% click-through rate is actually really good. Anything above that is fantastic because it's showing that you're really nailing your messaging and you've really got all of the marketing strategy and your funnel dialed in, your messaging dialed in, because you're talking to the people who it's most relevant to. So as a quick wrap up here, I want to just kind of summarize, right? Conversion, right? First we have clarity, then we have connect, then we have cultivate. Next we have conversion. And in the next episode in this solo series, we'll talk about that last C. But conversion is simply, how good are you at the next step? What is the next step? Knowing the next step for every single piece of marketing you create and making it easy for people to say yes. Making it easy for people to take that next step, whatever it is, and making it very clear on how they can take advantage of it. If you are ready to write your own emails to get this out, right? So to be able to craft these types of emails where you get more people who are opening, you get more people who are clicking. If you want to create highly engaged subscribers from email number one, I have a pop-up copy clinic coming up very soon. Well, we are going to do just that. We're going to dive in and start writing and start creating those emails that are going to create highly engaged subscribers. What does that mean for you? It means more people opening your message. It means more people seeing your opportunities and offers. It means more people being able to take that next step and say, yes, I'm ready to work with you. If you want that for you and your business, do be sure to check out the audienceconverter.com/clinic and get all of the details on how to sign up and grab a spot at the next pop-up copy clinic. These happen sporadically throughout the year, so be sure to go to theaudienceconverter.com/clinic to check out the details and sign up for the next one that's going to happen. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Weitkamp, and we have been talking all about conversion. What does it really mean, and why your numbers and metrics might be lying to you, and how to get a clearer idea of what conversion can really do for you and your business. Until next time, keep calm and check out the Copy Clinic.